welcome to Fossil Arcade. I'm sure many of you are already aware of the WarioWare series, as this had an instalment on almost every piece of Nintendo hardware since 2003. But there are a few rarer titles in the series you may not know, one of which being WarioWare Twisted for GameBoy Advance. Twisted uses a built-in gyroscope to give the Advance motion controls. Released in 2004, the game predates the Wii and gives a nice look at where the motion control fad was headed even then. On the whole, WarioWare is a very basic idea. You take on an endless barrage of micro minigames which task you to solve puzzles and problems using only the D-pad or A button. This is an idea that was heavily inspired, or perhaps just ripped off, from Bishi Bashi by Konami, which appeared in arcades and on the PlayStation many years earlier. The gameplay concepts are identical. However, it's with innovations such as Twisted that WarioWare stands out. By adding in a camera function, touchscreen, or gyro controls, Nintendo have helped this series grow its own identity. So, what can you expect from Twisted? Well, it plays exactly like the standard game, except now almost all minigames require some kind of movement. Fortunately, this can be played on either a standard GBA or SP, as the cartridge calibrates automatically. Turning the system left or right does feel odd at times, especially as the viewpoint of the game changes as you go. Figuring out what to do in time is a little more disorientating than before, and I usually find myself under or overcompensating how much I should turn, but you get used to it eventually. Twisted features over 100 minigames, many of which have been designed to perfection within their 5-second time limits. Remixes of NES games are usually my favourite in WarioWare, and there's no change here. I'm not a big fan of turning the GBA completely upside down though. The downsides of Twisted are mainly in its limitations. For example, linking two constantly moving GBAs together by lengthy cables could have been dangerous, so multiplayer was sensibly omitted by Nintendo. This is a mighty shame, as personally it's the multiplayer party games in other WarioWare titles that I feel makes them so valuable. There were a few other motion games on Game Boy and GBA back in the day, including Kirby Tilt and Tumble and Koro Koro Puzzle. Most of those are easy to find, but WarioWare Twisted was never released in Europe, which makes it harder to come by for those of us who happen to live there. Importing this cost me £30, which is quite a lot for what is a very basic game. Of course, the funky looking cartridge and international rarity have inflated that price, but mine's a loose copy too. A boxed copy could cost you up to £50. Still, there's a lot of unlockables to keep you interested, even when revisiting the same game themes over and over. These are mostly fun distractions that show off what creative things can be done with motion controls. Overall, I would recommend WarioWare Twisted to anybody who's played the series before, and if you're a collector of weird looking cartridges, this is a nice one to have. And of course, if you ever see Bishi Bashi in an arcade, definitely give it a try. Hope you enjoyed this review. See you again soon.